of the day. And here I would request our esteemed panelist, Mr. Mahesh Balakrishnan, who is joining online. He's a Manager, Development and Recognition, South Asia International Baccalaureate Organization, Singapore branch. Now we have Amrita Gulati, Director Academics, IC3 Institute. We have Veer Singh Anand, Director, University of St. Andrews, Chair, ICT Conference. We have Ms. Rashima Verma, Director, IB, Mahavishnu School. And we have our moderator, Ms. Sabrina Talwar, Education Director, Kunskep School in India.
There are who carry out traditional practices to thank you, Mahesh, for joining us from Singapore. Thank you so much and welcome. As a parent, you're always in a dilemma. Yeah, and because I remember as a parent how much I was in a dilemma because I was teaching in an IGCSE school and I didn't know where to put my children, whether to CBSE. Because I had done CBSE, I graduated, didn't do too badly in life, and then I started teaching as a professional, and then I had children, and then of course this whole dilemma started. But I'm glad this dilemma began and ended about 14 years ago because that when the choices were few. Now we have many more choices, and of course as educators, I think we feel obliged to kind of share this so that you can make an informed choice as we go ahead. So thank you and welcome to this panel. My first question, Mahesh, is to you. How does the IB curriculum prepare students for the demands of higher education and future careers in an ever-evolving global landscape?
Thank you, Sabrina, for that. Welcome all to the panelists, fellow panelists, and the audience. Thank you for having me here. I would like to say that these are very interesting times in which we are living in, especially the growth of IB in India. We have now schools in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities in fact. With the NEP 2020 coming in, there's a lot of alignment on what is being offered by the IB to schools in India, first of all. We also have a senior leadership team of IB in India in the last 45 days. So, a lot of things happening and we hear more about it. As I engages more schools, the private national, private international, and of course, state learning. Coming to the actual issue, IB is about student-centered learning. And this is a statement I want to make quite often. If you are seeing two Bollywood movies, one is Tare Learning and the other is 3 Idiots, I say that IB lies in between those movies. It's about conceptual learning, contextual learning, and about student-centered learning. It develops children as a whole child, develops a love for learning, and moves them away from group learning. So we focus on concepts, we focus on context, which helps them not only in higher education, but also in life afterwards. Because they develop skills like problem solving, critical thinking, and much more, working in teams, working with multicultural people, which are the needs of our and the 21st century learning. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mahesh. Yes, the global education landscape has changed so much and so have the demands. And I'm so glad, we have an option of not cramming all 24 to 200 formulas of chemistry. There are other options as well. My next question is to you, Veer, someone who has organically transitioned from an Indian board, a national curriculum to IB. What are the specific skills and competencies that the IB curriculum develops in students, and how do these translate in real-world scenarios?
So I think where I add value today is two perspectives. I think one in my professional role as representing a university today, but the second as a product of the IB system. So I did the IB diploma in 2012, and so I know what the transition is like. I was in an ICSE, ISC school and then in the 11th grade I transitioned to the IB diploma. So I'm talking from those two perspectives. But I think if I were just to name a few competencies or skills, I think collaboration, I think the ability to do research, I think the fact that you're very, curiosity is a big part of the IB. So if I said what separates an IB student from a non-IB student, it's the ability to want to think about topics, ask questions, and I think those skills are incredibly important. Communication and research. So if I was to, since there's a large base of parents today, so I think the next 10 years in terms of what success may look for a student, the first part is at the school level. And I think the IB teaches you how to connect different subjects together. So the IB is a program which will allow you to pick 6 different subjects and you don't have to follow a particular stream. So you can take a science with a social science and a language. In fact, if I was to ask the audience, what do you think the most helpful subject for me in my school career was? And it's, yes, you need the basics of mathematics and English, but actually a subject that I studied in the IB, which was theatre. Today I speak to students and parents, and all the skills that I've learned through that is very important. The second part of that 10-year journey that a student will face will be at the university level. The student transition from the IB is a lot easier for a student compared to other boards. And so you already have experience in how to cite, how to communicate, how to do research, where to find information, how to write academically. That's an important aspect that the IB teaches you. And all these skills make it easier, especially in the first semester, if not the first year of university. And of course, in certain colleges and universities in the United States, you might actually get some credit for it because the IB covers content in such an extensive manner that it actually covers some first year modules as well. And the final part, sorry if I'm taking a little bit more time, but the third part of that journey is actually your jobs and your careers. And what we see from employers when we ask them, it's not the subject, especially when you look outside India, it's about skills and competencies. And the same key skills come up: research, ability to communicate with each other, ability to work in teams. And these are the same competencies that students learn in the end. So actually, if you look at it from all 3 different perspectives, I think the IB really does prepare you for success.
Can I just add to this a little bit?
And I'm so proud sitting here because I'm V's teacher. I taught him, and I'm super proud of the way that you are communicating this understanding of the IB curriculum. I couldn't be prouder. Although my heart broke when he picked up and said theatre rather than French.
So you took that away from me. That was a surprise element. Okay, so his senior and his teacher. So our sympathies are with you. Rashima, you have you have an extensive, you've had kind of opportunities and of course responsibilities as educators, and of course you yourself have moved your children from the national board into an Indian national board, and you yourself have evolved as an educator, as a principal, academic, now as an academic director. So what is the key highlights of the IB curricula in terms of teaching approaches and assessment methods?
So, Sabrina, you really asked me some very interesting question because not only have I, very early in my career moved from teaching CBSE to the international curriculum, but I also moved my children from some very prestigious national curriculum schools to international curriculum. My children were in Vasantali and Shriram, and the 2 names that really stand out. And I moved them to a relatively unknown IB school, and my husband asked me, am I going crazy? So I had to pull the card that I'm the educator, I understand what I'm doing, I'm their mom. And I think the reasons for moving them continue to be the reasons why I think the IB curriculum is really beneficial for a child. Now the IB curriculum is a comprehensive, it's a rigorous curriculum. I do want to point it out that it's not an easy curriculum, it's a very rigorous curriculum. But it has a learner at the heart of it. If you look at the program model in any of the programs, whether it's the PYP, the FYP, or the DP you will see that at the heart of the program is a learner. That means that there is a lot of everything that is done is keeping the learner in mind. And there is something called the learner agency. Now, what is a learner agency? Learner agency means that the child decides of what they want to study in a certain component. Of course, you can't let them say that, okay, fine, just pick up whatever you want to, but the system, the way the curriculum is designed, allows children to pick up their own areas of passion, their own areas of interest within a subject group or even outside to take it forward. What does that do? When you get a child to do something like that, what does it build? It builds your research skills. It builds your involvement in the entire process. You're not a passive receiver of an education where a teacher is standing and passing on information. You're an active part of it because you feel that your thoughts and your own involvement is important. You build communication skills. You build collaborative skills. So the fact is that, and all of this contributes to your final assessment, and hence you understand this is important. In a lot of curriculum now, they pick up elements from different education boards and they like to put it over there, but somehow they're not very successful because it's not a part of the assessment. But here, your own way, your own agency, and the study that you want to do. For example, I'm just going to take example from the highest level, which is the DP. You want to, you working on a science project. But within the biology project, it's not something that says, okay, fine, do this. It's your desire of what you want to truly investigate, and that actually takes you forward. In the MYP, you have a component called the personal project. And to my mind, that's one of the most beautiful component of any curriculum, because it allows you to pursue any topic that you are passionate about and take it forward. I've had such amazing instances of my students picking up topics in personal project and actually discovering what they want to or don't want to do in life. I had a student who wanted to pursue music as a career option, and I know we've already spoken about music in our previous panel also. But this child wanted to make a career as a musician, and in his personal project, he picked up that as his area that he wanted to explore, and he wanted to do a little conference, a little show that he wanted to generate money from. And then he realized how difficult it was. Who's going to be willing to pay that money? How will that money come from? And I think at such a young age, it taught him that what he really wanted to do was not an easy task. So that child decided to keep a second option, a plan B, much more actively than he would have done previously. So I think that one of the big things that the IB curriculum does, it allows children to understand themselves and what they want to do so much better. I don't know, so many of us, I'm sure that there are people here sitting who thought they wanted to do something. They did it, and when they grew up, they realized that they wanted to do something else. Most of the people sitting here are actually not trained, they haven't taken an education in the career that they pursue today, because your curriculum did not allow you to understand yourself. And I think the biggest thing, there's a lot that can be said about the IB. It's inquiry driven, it's concept based, it's contextual. He's talked about a few things, we focused on it. But to me, what it really brings out, the best part of the IB is it allows a child to understand himself at such a young age. We've all understood ourselves much later when we've not been able to take those right decisions for ourselves. But as an IB student, you understand what is it that you like to do. Do you have skills for it, and what are the things that you don't like to do? So, like I said, that is something which is, and all of these components are part and parcel of the assessment process. So they are not something that are non-assessed. So that means that you have to give focus on it, and that is what makes it so unique.
Thank you for that. Thank you. That was really comprehensive. I think organically, I know the question has been somewhat answered, but would like Mahesh's perspective on this. That there are some, qualities and skills that Rashima spoke about. So Mahesh, how do these impact the learning experience and overall development of the students?
One of the things, just to add to what Rashima said and what we said, it's not just the PYP, MYP, DP, and CP. It's even at the primary or the earliest, we have a wonderful concept called inquiry to take, building on the foundational literacy and literacy to take. Now, coming to your question, the IB is very interconnected. When I say interconnected with the real world, it's very object oriented, it's very application oriented. The students, what they read in the classroom, they also learn how to apply it in the real world. That's the greatest advantage of the IB. So what they learn stays with them. They don't, it's not about syllabus delivery in the classroom. It's more than that. It's about learning outcomes. Teachers create those learning experiences in the classroom. It's not about syllabus delivery. When this all builds to a scaffolding from early years all the way to EPCP, for them to succeed at a university level or at workplace. I'll give you one example. Most schools monitor their schools. Okay? Every teacher knows the every school. But when you go to a university or a college, you're left to your own devices. So great. So I think when you get that school experience, you also become self-directed learners, which help you. When you go to university, as we said, research skills and all, you already learned it and you apply that. And then the college experience becomes a great experience.
Thank you for that, Mahesh. Amrita, apologies once again because I know you switched between your teacher and your senior. My question, and we both deal with higher education, right? So, Amrita, how does this IB curriculum, because you come from that space, foster a well-rounded education, including the development of various skills that you look for in a student who applies to the university?
Good afternoon. Thank you for the question. So I come from working in a school which offered multiple curriculums, and I was responsible for the college and career counseling center. And so I've seen kids from various curriculums go through their college applications. And I just want to highlight one important fact, that school education basically helps children discover established facts and knowledge. Right? This is a formula, this is when this was the history, etc. Whereas university system is one where the knowledge that they're dealing with is knowledge which is work in progress, or which is the latest, right? So it's a little more abstract, or it's a little more evolving as compared to school education that traditionally children are used to exploring. And IB is sort of something that prepares them, with the skills to deal with knowledge that is work in progress. Yeah, and I'm going to focus on, so you do 6 subjects. Yes, you have most of those subjects available in all other curriculums. The flexibility of doing 3 or 4 at an HL at a higher level versus some at a SL, again, builds additional room for flexibility. But I think where I have seen the difference between students from different curricula is the IB core, which is your TMK, so theory of knowledge, your extended essay, and your CAS, which is all the activities of the community activities, service and action that you do. So, for example, the extended essay is a 4,000-word essay which involves primary research, etc. Right? So that is a skill which will put you, at an advantage at the university level. Similarly, theory of knowledge, is about how do you discover and establish this is true or this is knowledge, where did it come from, what are the multiple views on, So it increases your tolerance for diversity of perspectives. And I think when you go to university, where I'm sure you all must have seen that when you were at school, you had people from the similar backgrounds, geographically, socioeconomically, etc. But when you went to university, you probably heard names for the first time that you hadn't heard because they were from different cities, different cultures, etc. So I think the sensitivity that comes in, through the BP core, and that's for 3 points. So it's not like you're just doing it. It adds to your score. So you do 42 points through your 6 subjects and 3 points through the DP core. So for me, as a college counselor, I saw that this also helped children write their college essays more effortlessly. There are some very competitive universities that request for writing samples that can come out of your extended essays as well. And I think the biggest thing is about plagiarism and citing, which a lot of the traditional curriculums do not teach. So that's another thing which is not new. Having said all of this, which is, so this is what the curriculum offers inherently. I think it's also, it's not that just because you're an IB student you have an edge. You still have to perform, and you still have to perform. And so if you're going to perform better in some other curriculum, you're better off than versus it. So it ultimately also depends on performance. One thing we're looking at is the skills that we'll build. The other aspect, if you look at it from the university selection point of view, is also how well you will do in that curriculum. So hence, I think having this conversation is important to understand what would suit the child.
Thank you for that, Amrita. So, Rashmi, I just wanted to understand there are students who move from one curricula to the other curricula, right? And they do it all the time. How do you deal with that transition? How do you make the transition smooth? You've been through this, well.
So, in my career as an IB educator, I've had many students, many students moving from the national curriculum to the international curriculum. And this is a question that I get asked all the time by parents: will my child be able to do it? First is that I think somewhere we do not acknowledge that children are very adaptable. They adapt to the situation very fast when they have to. It is as adults that we have more anxiety than the children themselves. The second is that the way schools are built at the IB schools and the curriculum are there, they understand this part very well. That the child that's coming from a national curriculum is lacking in certain skills, and they build on those programs that can help the child come up to the same level. The other thing that is so important to remember is that a lot of IB curriculum is skill based, and everybody is bound to be at a different stage. It's like, imagine that you're in a pool and you're all swimming. So it's a skill. Not everybody is going to swim the same way. And no matter if you join a little later, so you may not be able to swim at the same speed and the same skill and finesse that somebody else can, but you can very well do that. And with more practice, it happens. So, in all of those years that I've had in this IB education, and I've had children moving from the national curriculum to the international curriculum, I've never had a child wanting to go back. Every time the child has moved from a national curriculum, and a lot of parents, and I know that this was one of the questions that were asked in the previous panel also, that if you want to go back to the national curriculum. Of course, it's always possible, but the fact is a child doesn't want to go. And the reason is that because this is a curriculum that's engaging, it's tough, it's not easy, but it's engaging, you're an active part of it. And that's what gets the children so hooked on. So, which is why that once you're in it, it's very difficult to get out, even as a teacher.
I would like to add here also that many of the IB schools, they also provide a bridging program or foundation program to ease the transition into an IB.
Thank you for that. Mahesh, what kind of, as a parent, I'm already concerned, this is all very well, but do we have educators with the right mindset to deliver and support student learning? So what kind of professional development and, training do the educators go through to be able to deliver the IB program?
So one of the things what IB mandates for schools wanting to become an IB school is for them to align with the IB philosophy of student-centered learning. Number one. Number two is a commitment to professional development. And professional development is ongoing. While IB mandates that all teachers and all staff involved need for to get workshop from the IB itself, which is in delivered in various forms. Schools don't restrict themselves, and it's a very collaborative process. Within schools, they have to collaborate. That's again a key requirement to ensure a good implementation of an IB program. So schools do invest in continuous professional development, including category 2 workshops, category 3 workshops, and more so. And there are very good networks available for the IB schools in India. It's global, but yet also within India we have a program network which all schools are a part of, and they can take advantage of these networks to enhance their continuous growth. I know Rashima is somebody who's been investing in professional development in her school, and very recently she did a few, even before embarking on their journey and everything.
So just adding to what Manish just said, that professional development is very important in a curriculum like IB, and that is something in addition to the mandate that the IB already has for its teachers, because if It's a very rigorous process of authorization that a school has to go through to be able to offer the IB program. So that is something that is already inbuilt because they understand that it is something that would be required. In addition to that, like I said, that schools go above and beyond. For example, at Manav Rashna and at KEDx, we've had already 2 rounds of trainings for the teachers, rigorous trainings. I think about the first one was for about a week, and the second one was about 12 days, and I'm talking about the whole weeks of just training so that the teachers get ready to take the IB program forward, and that is something that continues. So professional development is a very much a part of the ecosystem. So in almost all IB schools that I've worked, there have been an average of about, in addition to the teaching time, there have been an average of about 2 to 3 hours of professional development time every week. So this is the kind of time commitment that I'm talking about. So the teachers are required to constantly look at the best practices of how the context has to be set up, how the conceptual understanding has to be built, how the skills have to be built, how you build up inquiry and the different ways in which inquiry functions in the classroom. So it's every school that I have worked in has this kind of an allocation for professional development, which is something very different from what any school can do. Typically, in a year, a school works for about 185 days in India. That's an average where we talk about between Saturdays, Sundays, and the holidays, and what may be. And in most schools, teachers work for about 200 plus days. So all of those extra days are spent in professional development at various levels. Most IB schools will have their own vision roadmap of what is their, what are their focus areas in that year for professional development. And that is why they are able to deliver such a high quality curriculum.
Thank you for that. I wish we could continue, but we are short of time. We are happy to answer questions from the audience. We have experts here, and they'll be happy to answer them.
So we were talking about careers, and I'm into tech hunting. So whereas I see a lot of job roles have changed, but one thing which hasn't changed is that people still want a CA or an MBA finance. They don't look at the schools. The only reason we look at schools is that the communication skills far. But the conventional qualifications are still looked at. And this I found in the last 5 years hasn't changed. How do you see that in alignment with
Can I take this question? Alright, so I think the reason why a lot of people are still looking at a very conventional is because you don't have anything else so much available right now. But I think even as somebody who is hiring myself throughout, I look at the background of the teacher. And if I ever want to get an IB teacher, IB student as a professional, I just grab, even if the other things are not there, because I know this is a person who knows how to learn, who knows how to work in a collaborative team. Unfortunately, because a bulk of our people are coming from national curriculum, me included, organizations have to make do with what they are getting, and hence we look at our own programs within the organizations to build the skills that we need from people. And that is why, but I think also we have to remember that the world of work is changing rapidly. The careers are no more the same way as we wanted them. And it's, remember you're talking about a child who's just entering school. The way the things are going to be, it's definitely changing every single day.
I don't see much changing in terms of the basic qualifications. The kind of careers available like he's into theatre, we kind of an who's into stand-up and moving with are definitely there, but the qualifications part still remains the same. That's my feeling.
Yeah, I think but there's two contexts. I think in India, you're right. We have a certain attraction towards an MBA or finance and CA. What we see as someone who's both worked and now works with the university in the UK is that we don't see the same traditional career paths. So, for example, if we talk about a company that's here as well, Ernst & Young and a lot of these companies don't even ask you for your scores anymore when they recruit in the UK. So that's one aspect, is just to recognize that if you are looking at sending your child abroad, that the market and the space will be very different to what it is in India. But so I do this kind of a session and there's some stats here. But while you have your technical degree titles and the knowledge you get from degrees, that in terms of academic research is something that they call hard skills or technical skills. So that's what you get from your degree. Today, alongside that, you need what they call soft skills as well, which is things like you mentioned, communication and so on. So it's not a matter of saying the MBA is not important or otherwise. It's normally what we see that the jobs that have continued to grow have a mixture of these two, is what stats normally would say. But I'll also cite another example, and probably you can help me with this, but we don't see linear career paths anymore. So what used to happen 20 years ago is you start with a company and you progress through the company. And for 20 years you're with the company. I see with my mother and father. We don't see that anymore. We see either you shift within the company, you might be moving departments, or we actually see people actively changing from one company to the other company. Now, what that actually takes is the fact that every time you move a position within department or company, you're utilizing all the skills that the IB teaches. So even though you're not directly, technically you need that MBA or title, but the other skills to succeed in that particular role are actually still relevant as well. So I think there's two parts to it, but I won't forget that I think we in India have a really big fascination towards MBAs and titles and so on. It's really not the case. In fact, it's actively changing outside.
I would like to add to what Abhi said. One is the changing nature of job in the future of work. Both are changing significantly. And the iron goal concept has now disappeared, literally. Okay, people are, if you stay long in job, you're not valued as well. One of the things, having sat on university interview panels, like the Nanyang Technological University, I can say, when we don't look at grades, when we're interviewing people or students for courses, we look at the X factor, what they're bringing in. And one of the things which Rashima said earlier and what others said is the area of knowledge, the creativity, action service, the community service, the personal project. That helps bring a certain kind of portfolio in addition to your work inside and outside that class.
Hi. So just building on this point that's been discussed here, that you also mentioned and you also mentioned that in India, of course, there's this fascination for. So does it mean that students who basically go through the IB curriculum, unless you're sure that you want to send your child abroad, it maybe is not the wisest decision to take them through the IB curriculum? That's number one. That's this first part of the question. And then the second part is, now you give this very nice example of, you enter the swimming pool after a while and you may not be as skilled a swimmer as someone who's always been there. But does that mean that, considering that, the IB board, I don't know, there's history, culture, etc., or maybe I know some of my nephews and nieces who maybe don't even know about who Maharana Pratap is, for example, or like my child will know the history of India. So does that mean that the child loses on being, I won't use the word rooted, but knowing about your own country, and if you do shift, then you're definitely saying that does make a difference. You're not as competent as someone who will grow in IB. But then being in IB, does that mean you can't succeed in India if you don't want to? Sorry.
So I'll just pick up your questions one by one. I think I'll pick up the first one and I think one of the best ways to answer this would be that my daughter did the IT curriculum and she's working with Ernest & Young without an MBA. So I just want to firstly point out to that it's absolutely possible to take that in India, and she's working in India. There is nothing to say that only children. So that's why when I answered the first question, I talked about what is the biggest thing. So we all talk about the fact that it's great curriculum, it helps you with college life, it helps you with careers. But I want to talk about the fact that how does it benefit a child? And I think what we need to remember is that it helps a child know themselves much more than anything else. For me, that counts as the biggest thing, that my child knows their own strengths, their own weaknesses, they know what they need to work on, they build those skills that will allow them to be successful in workplace and in life. And which child doesn't need it? Every child needs it. And it is not about getting those, that it's only for those who want to go abroad. Like I just gave you that example. So I think if you are wanting your child to become a successful human being, a person who can communicate well, a person who can work well in teams, a person who's got empathy, who can understand, who can be, develop their own understanding of their own personality, then definitely that child needs that IB curriculum. I'm going on to your next question, which is about, you may join a swimming pool later, but that doesn't mean you cannot overtake others. It's not about who starts first. It's about how well engaged you are with the process and how much do you feel motivated to work when you're there within that. And maybe you have a natural inclination for it. I've seen children joining IB only grade 11 and 12 and doing extremely well for themselves vis-a-vis somebody who may have started doing it from the POIP. So it is very individual. It is all about how well the parents and the school and the child align and how well they are engaged with that entire process. So it is nothing about who starts first and who starts later.
I would like to make one myth that IB is only for those students who go overseas. 50% of our students who finish grade 12 continue their higher education.
So it's is nothing you are on an ID board applying for some examination. What I
No, not true at all. The only requirement is that you should have studied Hindi as a language till grade 8 for civil services, particularly. Otherwise, there is nothing that stops you from having done the IB. IB has full recognition from associations of Indian universities, and that affiliation and recognition certificate is available.
I'm just saying, just to answer your question, slightly lighter note here, but my research was actually as part of my theatre subject was on Kathakali. So I was more rooted, I saw more of India through the IB because I had to go to the south and actually, view performances. So I actually fell in love with more of India through the IB.
I think, I'm sorry, I completely forgot about that aspect of your question, so I want to answer that. It is not true that the children do not understand their own culture. In fact, almost all of the IB students that I have seen, in fact, after knowing, because it opens up your mind, you want to know about your own culture in much more greater depth than you would have otherwise. Again, I'm going back to it that my children have done the IB curriculum. My children ask me questions that I, as a CBSE pass out and having lived in India almost all my life, I'm unable to answer. I'm having to go deep down to my own roots to understand, because the questions that they ask me and their desire to connect with their own roots in a much more deeper rather than just a knowledge base is what I think sets them apart.
I just want to add, sorry, it was the question. I just want to complete the question that you, so about, like Mahesh has given you some statistics on the fact that 50% of the students continue to be in India. What's important to consider is that you must know that IB is recognized. There is equivalency. So here you have a scale of 1, whatever, like up to 45 points. So they have a conversion to a percentage system as well. However, if you're preparing for engineering, medicine, it is an additional ask on that student, right? If you have to prepare for JEE mains, if you have to prepare for NEET, if you prepare for CLAT, if you prepare for, it is going to be an additional workload for the child in addition to the 6 subjects and the IB, the TP core. So you cannot take away the fact that one side is eligibility, the other is doing it. It's possible, yes, possible. Is it more work? Yes, it is more work. So we don't want to take, it's important for you to know that eligibility is on paper, but the work the child has to do will be additional. That's one. Second is some of the timelines, right? Here the results are declared later than some of the national curriculum. So that kind of, affects the choices that you will have available. So I think as you're moving closer to that stage, it's important to be aware, but eligibility is there.
Yeah, so an additional question on that. Everything is clear about the IIT and the person going abroad, 50% chances who wants to share. One last addition to that question is it possible that a child who has been joined has joined the PYP program and moved to the 8th grade, and then they decide that okay, they see the perspective that they want to move to the IIT JEE. So they can shift from the international to the national board. And of course, it is a decision of the children, of course, whether he wants to move it or not. So, what are the numbers in which you know that the students who have been selected in IIT, JEE, some of these competitive exams? Is there any number of the percentage which the student have been selected out of the number of attempted candidates? I would say.
So I tell you what, I think this is a question that requires a larger look into the university scenario that we're talking about today. Do you know how many, what is the acceptance rate in IIT? It's about 2%. Alright? It's from my last time that I looked at it, I might be wrong, but it's around 2% is what I'm getting. So which means that it is something that we accept it is a hard exam to crack. First. The second is that a child who is studying in the international curriculum has exposure and availability and a chance in universities that are equivalent to IIT with a better rating. Would anybody know what is the acceptance rate in MIT? It's higher than IIT. So the fact is that if I'm a student of International Baccalaureate, which means that I have, what you call that, I have that, international curriculum behind me, I have those skills, I have those subjects, that means I'm also eligible to look at universities like that. And if I'm not mistaken, MIT is need blind. It's need blind, which means that it does not look at whether you need funds or not. If you have a situation where you need money, they will pay you those scholarships. So international baccalaureate children have a larger canvas open to them, rather than just going for the 2% acceptance IIT. So for them, that larger canvas of the entire world is open to them. So they pick up something which is equivalent in terms of accessibility, equivalent or more in terms of acceptability, but is easier and allows them access to funds that maybe other children would not have. So I think you need to look at this in that context. Mahesh, would you like
I would like to say here is that it's a myth that I students do from his admission in IITs or good colleges. IT students can take 3 sciences for me. Of course, if you look at universities in Singapore, you don't need biology for medicine, or you can have now what happens is about 15, 20,000, 25,000, max 20,000 students get admission in JEE. What happens to the other 2,25,000 students who are applying, right? Many of them take a break here. Like Amrita said, the IB program is a rigorous program. Some of our students crack these entrance tests in the same year they complete the DP. In some years, they take a drop year and they don't. And other board systems also do that. Submit that it's only applicable to IB or not at all. Okay, one. Second is if the national curriculum or the student delivery for national entrance exam was so good, then Kota factory, Hyderabad factory would not have come up. It's a reality. I've been involved in mapping projects within the national curriculum with the IB subjects. I can say that subject differential is less than 1% in most cases. Either we are better or they are better. They are subjective oriented, we are objective oriented. Okay, but if you look at it, basic premise of the national curriculum framework takes care. Okay, it's what you learn in school, how it enhances your individual capacity. I think as a parent, you should look at that. Another thing which I want to say is again on the future of work and the way the world is changing. Today we are looking at IITs and all, the way it is being done is for today's scenario. If you're looking at a child, you don't know what is going to happen in 18 years' time, 20 years' time. Prepare them to be good learners by common interest. Prepare them to be happy facing a rat race. Because if you are part of the rat race, you're nothing but a rat at the end of the day. Okay, your children deserve better. That's my humble request. Okay, thank you.
Just one last question. I think we're running short of time. Over tea and coffee, because there's tea and coffee outside and the panelists are going to be there, so if you would like to grab them. The MYB faculty is here, early faculty is here. Alright, I heard a lady before.
Kindly show the courtesy of securing her futures. Give us 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm an extra student at IGCSE and I don't know whether it is IBD or A-levels for 11th.
Why don't we have this one-on-one conversation outside of the, I'd be happy to help you.
Thank you everybody for joining us today.